Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're turning your screen into a digital blackboard to completely demystify double object passives. If you've ever felt like your academic or professional sentences lack a certain sophisticated punch, well, you're in the exact right place. We're going to target a very specific C2 level grammar structure that is literally going to transform the way you communicate. Here's a quick look at our syllabus for today. We'll start by mastering double objects. Then we'll compare type 1 and type 2 passives, dive into the academic advantage this gives you, talk about avoiding some common mistakes, and finally, we'll wrap up with an interactive practice lab. All right, section 1, mastering double objects and understanding ditransitive verbs. Let's build our foundation, because we really can't build advanced passive sentences without understanding the active verbs that make them possible. So, what exactly is a ditransitive verb? It's simply a verb that takes not one, but two objects. First, we have the indirect object, which is usually the person who is receiving something. Second, we have the direct object, which is the actual thing being given, sent, shown, or offered. For example, think about the sentence, the teacher gave the students homework. The word gave is our ditransitive verb. It's followed by the indirect object, the students, and the direct object, homework. Turning that active detransitive sentence into a passive one is actually super straightforward. It's kind of like a math formula for language. You just follow 4 simple steps. First, choose which of the 2 objects will become your new passive subject. Next, move that chosen object right to the beginning of the sentence. Then apply your passive verb structure. So that's the appropriate form of be plus the past participle. And finally, you just retain the remaining object in the sentence. That's the whole shebang. Moving right along to section 2. Type 1 versus Type 2, the 2 paths of passive voice. Because you have 2 objects to choose from, you actually have 2 completely correct options when building your passive sentence. Let's explore them.
This perfectly illustrates the contrast. In Type 1, the students were given homework. We've taken the indirect object, the students, and promoted them to the subject. Conversely, in Type 2, homework was given to the students. The direct object, the homework, takes the lead. So Type 1 promotes the person receiving the action, while Type 2 focuses heavily on the object being transferred. And honestly, both are grammatically perfect. But here is where we separate the intermediate learners from the true C2 masters. Check out the difference between a promotion was offered to her versus she was offered a promotion. While both are absolutely correct, native English speakers overwhelmingly prefer Type 1. Why? Well, because putting the human being, the indirect object first, simply sounds so much more natural to the ear. It just flows better, whether you're talking or writing. To help you internalize this, you'll want to memorize these common ditransitive verbs, mapped directly to their natural Type 1 passive structures. Just listen to how seamlessly these flow. Give becomes, I was given advice. Send becomes, we were sent an invite. Offer becomes, he was offered a job. Notice how in every single one of these Type 1 examples, we are leading with the person. Memorizing these patterns is a real game changer for sounding more fluent. Let's jump to section 3, the academic writing advantage. We're going to see how this grammar builds a firewall of objectivity in your professional and academic communication. If you're writing a research paper, you want the focus on the methodology, right? Not the researchers themselves. Consider the active sentence, researchers gave participants detailed instructions. I mean, it's fine, but it's a bit informal. Now look at the alternative. Participants were given detailed instructions. Transforming the sentence into a double object passive completely removes that informal subject. It instantly makes your writing sound more sophisticated, authoritative, and brilliantly objective. Here's another one, this time from a business context. Active, the organization offered employees additional training. Passive, employees were offered additional training. The crucial takeaway here is that by relying on the passive structure, you strip away the unnecessary who and keep the reader focused purely on the formal action and the people receiving it. It's a really subtle shift, but one that completely upgrades the professional tone of your document. Okay, section 4, avoiding common mistakes and preposition pitfalls. Before we actually test your knowledge, we need to address the most frequent errors advanced learners make. Even at a C2 level, these little preposition pitfalls can totally trip you up. The absolute biggest trap involves the preposition to. Saying she was given to a promotion is just incorrect. The proper form is she was given a promotion. You never want to use to before the direct object in a Type 1 sentence. However, and this is important, saying a promotion was offered her is also incorrect. You absolutely must remember to include to before the indirect object in a Type 2 sentence. A promotion was offered to her. Let's reinforce this a bit.
Inserting to incorrectly completely shatters the flow of that type 1 structure. I mean, he was sent to an email creates this hilarious image of a person being physically mailed in an envelope. We want he was sent an email. Similarly, the students were taught to grammar is super clunky and wrong. Just keep it clean and direct. The students were taught grammar.
All right, Section 5, the interactive practice lab. Class is almost over, but it's time to put your active learning to the test. I'm going to give you an active sentence, and I want you to mentally construct the two passive alternatives.
Here's your first challenge. Active. The company offered her a senior position. Take a second. Can you mentally convert that into both type 1, where the person is the subject, and type 2, where the position is the subject? Think back to our formula.
Let's see how you did. If you chose she was offered a senior position for the natural type 1 and a senior position was offered to her for type 2, you absolutely nailed it. Notice how in type 2 we correctly remembered to add that tricky preposition to.
Let's try another one. Active. They gave us useful advice. How would you elevate this somewhat informal sentence using our ditransitive passive rules? Again, think of type 1 and type 2. Here are the solutions. For type 1, we were given useful advice. And for type 2, useful advice was given to us. These answers perfectly showcase how we were given useful advice stands out as the cleanest, most professional option by far. Okay, for our final exercise, let's look at a strict academic setting and transform this active statement. Active. The professor taught the students phonetics. Convert this into type 1 and type 2. And here's the reveal. Type 1, the students were taught phonetics. Type 2, phonetics was taught to the students. Did you notice how the students were taught phonetics completely shifts the focus to the learners and the subject matter? It removes the individual professor from the equation, which is exactly where the focus belongs in a formal academic context. By eliminating those clunky subjects and mastering these dual passive pathways, you now have the tools for true C2 level precision. You've seen the mechanics, compared the types, and conquered the practice lab. So the final question I'll leave you with is this. How will you deploy the double object passive in your next vital essay, report, or professional email? Thank you so much for joining me on the Digital Blackboard today, and keep elevating your English.